Listen carefully, because this may challenge how you've been living. One of the greatest mistakes you can make in life is to expose your process before it's time. Many people are not suffering from a lack of vision. They're suffering from overexposure. You talk too much. You reveal too early. You announce what God is still developing in private. You must understand this principle. Everything valuable grows in secrecy before it is revealed in power. A seed does not announce itself when it is planted. It goes into the soil, into darkness, into isolation. Why? Because that is where transformation happens. And many of you are trying to display fruits when you have not allowed your roots to develop in silence. You keep telling people your plans, your next move, your goals, and then you wonder why things don't manifest. It is because not every year is designed to handle your vision. Some people will misunderstand it, some will doubt it, and others will unconsciously sabotage it with their words, their energy, or their limited thinking. You see, when you speak too early, you invite opinions into a place where only faith should exist. There are dreams that are too sacred to be discussed casually. There are assignments on your life that require protection. And sometimes the greatest form of wisdom is silence. Not everyone clapping for you is assigned to you. Let me say that again. Not everyone clapping for you is assigned to you. There are people who celebrate you publicly but question you privately. There are individuals who appear supportive, but their understanding of your purpose is shallow. And if you allow their perspective to influence your direction, you will dilute your assignment. That is why you must become disciplined in your communication. Stop announcing every step. Stop explaining every decision. Stop feeling obligated to update everyone about your life. Because purpose is not a public performance. It is a private responsibility. When a woman is pregnant, she doesn't gather people every day to discuss the development of the child. No, there is a period of quiet growth, a hidden process. And only when the time is right, the manifestation becomes undeniable. In the same way, your vision requires incubation. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Some of you talk because you are seeking validation. You want people to affirm your ideas, to agree with your direction. But when you depend on external validation, you become vulnerable to external limitation. You must reach a place where your conviction is stronger than people's opinions. Because the moment you start depending on people to confirm what God has already revealed to you, you delay your progress. Guard your vision like a treasure. Protect your ideas like they are fragile. Because not every environment is conducive for growth. There are environments where your dream will be nurtured. And there are environments where your dream will be suffocated. And if you don't discern the difference, you will expose something precious to people who cannot appreciate its value. Let me give you another principle. Familiarity breeds contempt. The more people feel they know about your journey, the less they respect its significance. When you make your life too accessible, you reduce the mystery, and with it, you reduce the impact. Great leaders understand the power of selective communication. They don't speak less because they have nothing to say. They speak less because they understand timing. Timing is everything. There is a time to speak, and there is a time to remain silent. Wisdom is knowing the difference. Some of you are under spiritual and emotional attack not because of what you are doing, but because of what you are saying. Your words are exposing your position. You are revealing strategies that are not yet ready to be tested. Even in warfare, no general announces his battle plan to everyone. Why? Because strategy requires confidentiality, and your life is no different. You are in a process. You are building something. You are becoming someone, and becoming requires privacy. Stop telling people what's going on in your life, not because people are bad, but because everything is not meant to be shared. Some conversations are reserved for God. Some ideas are meant to be developed in solitude. Some progress should only be visible through results, not explanations. Let your success speak. Let your growth announce itself. Let your transformation be so evident that you don't have to explain it. Because when something is real, it doesn't need advertisement. It needs time. So from today, practice discipline. Before you speak, ask yourself, is this necessary? Is this the right person? Is this the right time? And if the answer is no, then learn to be quiet. Because sometimes the greatest move you can make is silence. Protect your vision. Develop in private. And when the time is right, you won't have to say anything. Your life will speak for you. Protecting your vision through silence is not an act of fear. It is an act of wisdom. It is a sign that you understand the nature of purpose, the process of growth, and the responsibility that comes with carrying something valuable within you. Many people have not failed because they lack potential, but because they exposed their potential too early. They spoke before they were ready. They revealed before they were ready. And in doing so, they allowed external voices to interfere with an internal process that required privacy. You must understand that anything significant in life begins in a hidden place. Greatness is never born in the spotlight. It is developed in obscurity. When a seed is planted, it is not celebrated immediately. It is buried, it is covered, it is placed in darkness. And if you do not understand the purpose of that darkness, you will misinterpret silence as stagnation. But silence is not stagnation. Silence is preparation. There is a season where your vision must be protected from unnecessary exposure, because at that stage, it is still forming its identity. It is still taking shape. It is still developing the strength it needs to withstand pressure. And if you expose it too soon, you risk damaging something that is not yet matured. Many of you are excited about what you see for your future. You have ideas, dreams, plans, and ambitions that ignite your spirit. And in your excitement, you feel the urge to share it with others. You want to talk about it. You want people to affirm it. You want someone to say, "That's a great idea." But what you do not realize is that seeking validation too early can become a trap. Because the moment you begin to depend on people's approval, you give them permission to influence your direction. And not everyone has the capacity to understand what has been placed inside of you. Some people will hear your vision and filter it through their own fears, their own limitations, and their own experiences. And instead of nurturing your dream, they will question it. They will doubt it. They will suggest safer alternatives. They will try to make it more realistic. But purpose is not meant to be realistic. Purpose is not meant to be fulfilled. And if you are not careful, the wrong voice at the wrong time can plant seeds of doubt in your mind. And doubt is dangerous because it weakens your commitment. It causes you to hesitate. It makes you second-guess what you once believed with conviction. This is why silence becomes necessary. Silence protects your conviction. Silence preserves your focus. Silence allows your vision to grow without interference. There are things that must be developed in private before they can be displayed in public. And if you violate that process, you disrupt your own progress. You must become comfortable with working in silence. You must learn how to build without announcing. You must develop the discipline to keep certain things to yourself, not because you are being secretive, but because you are being strategic. There is a difference. Being secretive is driven by fear. Being strategic is driven by understanding. And when you understand the nature of growth, you begin to appreciate the power of silence. Silence gives you space to think clearly. It removes the noise of external opinions and allows you to hear your own voice. It strengthens your connection to your purpose because you are no longer distracted by the expectations of others. When you are constantly talking about your plans, you divide your energy. You spend more time explaining than executing. You become more focused on how things sound than how things are built. And this is where many people lose momentum. They become professional talkers instead of disciplined builders. They announce ideas, but they do not develop them. They speak about goals, but they do not commit to the process required to achieve them. And over time, their words lose power because there is no substance behind them. But when you operate in silence, something different happens. Your energy is concentrated. Your focus is sharpened. Your actions become intentional. You begin to move with purpose instead of performance. And when you finally produce results, they carry weight because they are backed by discipline. You must also understand that not everything that is meant for you needs to be understood by others. Some aspects of your journey are personal. Some assignments are specific to you. And trying to explain them to everyone will only lead to frustration because people will ask questions you cannot answer yet. They will expect clarity in areas where you are still discovering. And if you allow their expectations to pressure you, you may feel the need to justify something that is still unfolding. But purpose does not require justification. It requires obedience. There are moments in your life where you must trust what you feel, even if you cannot fully explain it. And in those moments, silence becomes your ally. It allows you to move without the burden of constant explanation. It frees you from the need to convince others. It keeps your focus on what truly matters: growth, development, and execution. You must also recognize that when something is constantly exposed, it becomes vulnerable. The more people have access to your plans, the more opinions you will receive. And not all opinions are valuable. Some opinions are projections of fear. Some are rooted in jealousy. Some are simply uninformed. But if you're not careful, you will treat all opinions as equal. And in doing so, you will allow unnecessary voices to influence your decisions. This is why you must be selective with your communication. Not everyone needs to know what you are building. Not everyone needs to understand your next move. Not everyone deserves access to your vision. Access is a privilege, not a right. And when you begin to treat it that way, you will protect your peace and your progress. There is also a spiritual principle at work here. What you speak prematurely, you can disrupt. Words carry power, and when you release words before their time, you can interfere with the natural process of development. It is like opening an oven before the food is ready. You interrupt the process, and the result is affected. In the same way, constantly talking about your plans can interfere with your focus, your discipline, and your consistency. Because once you have spoken, you feel a sense of temporary satisfaction. You feel like you have already accomplished something, even though you have not. And that false sense of progress can reduce your urgency to act. But when you remain silent, the pressure remains, the hunger remains, the drive remains. And that internal tension pushes you to keep going until the vision becomes reality. Silence keeps you accountable. It forces you to rely on action instead of words. It shifts your identity from someone who talks about success to someone who produces it. And when you finally reveal what you have been working on, it carries a different kind of impact. It surprises people. It commands respect. It speaks for itself. Because people are not impressed by what you say you will do. They are moved by what you have done. So protect your vision. Guard it with discipline. Allow it to grow in the right environment. Resist the urge to announce every step. Resist the temptation to seek validation. And trust the process enough to develop in silence. Because when something is truly ready, it will not need promotion. It will not need explanation. It will not need approval. It will be evident. It will be undeniable. And at that moment, your silence will have served its purpose. It will have protected what needed protection. It will have strengthened what needed strength. And it will have positioned you to reveal not just an idea, but a reality. So learn the power of quiet growth. Embrace the discipline of silence. And understand that sometimes the greatest thing you can do for your vision is to say nothing at all. Not everyone is assigned to understand you, and the moment you accept this truth, your life will become less frustrating and more focused. One of the greatest burdens people carry is the need to be understood by everyone around them. You want people to see what you see, feel what you feel, and believe what you believe. But purpose does not operate on public consensus. It operates on personal conviction. You must understand that your assignment is not a group project. It is not something that requires universal agreement. It is something that has been entrusted to you specifically, and because of that, not everyone has the capacity to interpret it correctly. People can only understand you to the level of their awareness, their experience, and their exposure. And if their perspective is limited, their interpretation of your vision will also be limited. This is where many people lose momentum. They begin with clarity, passion, and direction. They know what they want to do. They feel a deep sense of purpose. But the moment they start sharing it with others, they encounter resistance. Not always intentional resistance, but resistance nonetheless. Questions, doubts, concerns, and criticisms begin to surface. Are you sure this will work? Why would you do that? Have you thought about the risks? That doesn't sound realistic. And slowly, without realizing it, they begin to shrink their vision to fit the comfort zone of others. You must be very careful here. Because when you allow people who do not understand your purpose to influence your decisions, you begin to compromise your assignment. You start adjusting something that was never meant to be adjusted. You start editing a vision that was never meant to be rewritten by external opinions. And over time, you lose the originality of what was placed inside of you, not because it wasn't powerful, but because it was not protected. There are people in your life who love you, but they do not understand you. and you must learn to separate those two realities. Love does not automatically equal alignment. Someone can care about you deeply and still be completely disconnected from your purpose. And if you expect them to fully grasp what you are called to do, you will constantly feel misunderstood. This is why discernment becomes essential. Discernment is the ability to recognize who has the capacity to handle your vision and who does not. It is knowing who to speak to and who to remain silent around. It is understanding that access to your purpose is not something you give freely. It is something that must be earned through alignment, maturity, and trust. Because once you give someone access, you give them influence. And influence, if placed in the wrong hands, can be dangerous. There are individuals who will hear your vision and respond based on their own fears. They are not trying to harm you. They are simply projecting their limitations. They will advise you to play it safe, to be careful, to avoid risk. And while their intentions may be good, their perspective can still restrict you. You must remember that people advise based on where they are, not where you are going. So if someone has never stepped into the level you are aiming for, how can they guide you effectively? If they have never taken the kind of risks you are considering, how can they fully understand the faith required to pursue your vision? This is not about disrespecting others. It is about recognizing the boundaries of their understanding. You do not reject people. You simply limit their influence. There is a difference, because if you allow every voice to speak into your life, you will become confused. You will start second-guessing yourself. You will lose clarity, and eventually you may abandon something that was meant to transform your life, simply because it was not understood by those around you. You must develop the strength to stand alone in your conviction. There will be moments when no one else sees what you see. Moments when no one else believes what you believe. Moments when your vision feels isolated. And in those moments, you must rely on your inner certainty, because purpose often requires you to walk a path that others cannot yet comprehend. Greatness has always been misunderstood in its early stages. Anything that is ahead of its time will appear strange to those who are comfortable with the present. And if you are doing something different, something bold, something unconventional, you must expect a level of misunderstanding. It comes with the territory. But misunderstanding is not rejection, and it is certainly not a reason to stop. You must learn how to move forward without constant approval. You must become comfortable with being misunderstood, because the need to be understood by everyone will keep you stuck in a place that feels safe, but produces nothing. It will cause you to conform instead of create, to imitate instead of innovate, to settle instead of expand. And that is not why you were given your vision. Your vision was given to you to stretch you, to challenge you, and to take you beyond what is familiar. And anything that stretches you will also separate you. Separation is part of growth. Not everyone can go where you are going. Not everyone can handle the level you are stepping into. And not everyone is meant to be involved in your process. Some people are seasonal. They are present for a certain phase of your life, but they are not assigned to your future. And if you try to carry them into a place where they do not belong, you will slow yourself down. You will feel resistance. You will experience tension, because you are trying to force alignment where there is none. This is why you must be willing to release the need for universal understanding. You do not need everyone to agree with you. You do not need everyone to support you. You do not need everyone to validate your choices. What you need is clarity. What you need is conviction. What you need is the courage to move forward, even when others do not fully understand. And as you begin to operate from that place, something powerful happens. You become less reactive to opinions. You become more focused on execution. You stop explaining yourself unnecessarily. And you start investing your energy where it truly matters, into building, growing, and becoming. You also begin to attract the right people. Because when you stop seeking validation from everyone, you create space for alignment. The right people will recognize what others could not. They will understand your language. They will see your vision without needing constant explanation. And their presence will not drain you, it will strengthen you. But this only happens when you stop forcing understanding from those who are not assigned to it. So stop over-explaining. Stop trying to make everyone see what you see. Stop feeling offended when people do not understand your choices. It is not their responsibility to understand. It is your responsibility to stay committed, because in the end, your life is not a performance for others. It is a fulfillment of purpose. And purpose is not validated by popularity. It is validated by obedience. There will come a time when what you are doing will make sense to people. There will come a time when the results will speak so loudly that understanding will no longer be required. But until that time comes, you must remain focused. You must remain disciplined. You must remain grounded in what you know you are called to do. And you must protect your vision from those who are not assigned to understand it. Because not everyone is meant to see the blueprint. Not everyone is meant to be involved in the process. And not everyone is meant to walk with you to the final destination. Accepting this is not isolation. It is maturity. It is growth. It is wisdom. And it is necessary if you are going to become everything you were created to be. Overexposure invites limitation. And if you do not understand this principle, you will unknowingly sabotage your own progress. There is a tendency in human nature to share, to express, to announce what we are doing and where we are going. It gives a sense of connection, a sense of validation, even a sense of temporary accomplishment. But what you must realize is that every time you expose something prematurely, you open the door for influence, both positive and negative. And not all influence is beneficial to your growth. When you constantly talk about your plans, your ideas, your goals, you are not just communicating, you are inviting interpretation. And interpretation is shaped by the mindset of the listener. People do not hear you from your level of vision. They hear you from their level of understanding. This means that what you see as possibility, someone else may see as risk. What you see as purpose, someone else may see as impractical. What you see as faith, someone else may see as foolishness. And when those interpretations are expressed back to you, they begin to create noise in your mind. This is where limitation begins. Because the more voices you allow into your process, the harder it becomes to maintain clarity. You start to question yourself. You start to analyze things you were once certain about. You begin to hesitate, not because your vision has changed, but because your confidence has been diluted by too many opinions. Overexposure creates confusion. It weakens your internal compass. It shifts your focus from execution to explanation. Instead of building, you are defending. Instead of progressing, you are justifying. And slowly, without realizing it, you lose momentum. There is also a psychological effect that many people do not recognize. When you talk about your goals repeatedly, your brain begins to register those conversations as progress. You feel a sense of accomplishment simply because you have expressed the idea. You receive reactions, encouragement, maybe even praise. And that emotional reward can trick you into thinking that you have already taken a step forward. But you have not. You have only spoken. And this false sense of progress is dangerous because it reduces your urgency to act. It satisfies you prematurely. It gives you the feeling of movement without the reality of it. And over time, you become more addicted to talking about your goals than actually pursuing them. This is why many people have impressive conversations but very little results. They know how to articulate vision, but they lack the discipline to execute it. They have mastered the language of success, but they have not committed to the process required to achieve it. And it all begins with overexposure. When you expose too much, you divide your energy. Energy that should be invested in building is spent on explaining. Energy that should be used for discipline is consumed by discussion. Energy that should drive action is scattered across unnecessary conversations. And the more your energy is divided, the less effective you become. Focus requires concentration, and concentration cannot exist where there is constant exposure. You must learn how to conserve your energy. You must become intentional about where your attention goes, because your attention is one of your greatest assets. Where you place it determines what you produce. If your attention is constantly on what people think, how they respond, and whether they approve, then your productivity will suffer. But when your attention is centered on execution, growth, and development, your results will begin to reflect it. There is also the reality that not all feedback is constructive. Some feedback is rooted in fear. Some is rooted in jealousy. Some is simply uninformed. But if you expose your plans to too many people, You will receive all types of feedback, and not all of it will be helpful. And unless you have a very strong sense of identity and direction, you will struggle to filter what to accept and what to reject. This is why limitation enters. Because instead of moving forward with confidence, you become cautious. You start to second-guess your steps. You begin to adjust your vision to avoid criticism. And in doing so, you reduce the power of what you are building. You dilute it. You make it smaller, safer, and more acceptable. But purpose was never meant to be reduced for the comfort of others. Purpose was meant to be fulfilled in its fullness. Another danger of overexposure is that it creates pressure. When you constantly tell people what you are going to do, you create expectations. People begin to watch you. They begin to anticipate results. And while accountability can be positive, premature accountability can be overwhelming, because now you are not just working, you are performing. You are trying to meet expectations that may not align with your natural process. You feel the need to produce quickly, to show progress, to prove yourself. And this pressure can lead to rushed decisions, poor execution, and unnecessary stress. Instead of allowing your vision to develop at the right pace, you force it into a timeline that was influenced by external exposure. And anything that is rushed is rarely built to last. True growth takes time. It requires patience. It demands consistency. And these qualities cannot thrive under constant pressure to perform. This is why you must protect your process. You must give yourself the freedom to develop without the weight of external expectations. You must allow yourself to make mistakes in private, to learn without judgment, to grow without constant observation. Because growth is not always attractive, development is not always impressive. There are stages where things look messy, uncertain, and incomplete. And if you expose those stages to the wrong audience, they may misinterpret your progress. They may judge your process without understanding it. And their judgment can affect your confidence if you are not grounded. So you must become selective with your words, selective with your audience, selective with what you reveal and when you reveal it. This is not about isolation, it is about preservation. It is about ensuring that what you are building is given the best possible environment to succeed. You must also understand that when something is constantly available, it loses its value. Scarcity creates importance. When you do not share everything, what you eventually reveal carries more weight. It has impact. It commands attention. But when you share everything all the time, people become familiar with your process, and familiarity reduces appreciation. They see your ideas before they are fully developed. They become accustomed to your plans without seeing results, and over time your words lose significance. But when you operate with restraint, when you speak with intention, when you reveal only what is necessary, your words carry authority, because they are backed by action. They are supported by results. They are not just ideas, they are evidence. This is where you want to be. You want to be in a position where your life speaks louder than your words, where your progress is visible without explanation, where your results create curiosity instead of your announcements. Because when results speak, they do not need interpretation. They are clear, they are undeniable, and they command respect. So discipline yourself. Learn to hold back. Learn to work quietly. Learn to build without constant exposure. Because not everything that is meant to grow needs to be seen immediately. Some things need darkness. Some things need privacy. Some things need silence. And when you respect that process, you eliminate unnecessary limitations. You remove distractions. You protect your focus. And you position yourself to operate at your highest potential. Overexposure may feel natural. It may feel harmless. It may even feel productive. But in reality, it can be one of the greatest obstacles to your success. So guard your words, protect your energy, limit your exposure, and commit yourself to execution over explanation. Because at the end of the day, it is not what you say that defines your life. It is what you build. Let results speak louder than words, because in the end, it is not your intentions that define you. It is your outcomes. Many people have mastered the art of speaking, but very few have committed to the discipline of producing. And there is a vast difference between the two. Words can inspire, words can impress, words can even create temporary belief, but only results establish credibility. You must come to a place in your life where you are less concerned with what you say you are going to do and more committed to what you are actually doing. Because talking about a vision does not build it. Announcing a plan does not execute it. Declaring success does not create it. There is a process that must be followed, and that process is built on discipline, consistency, and action. Too many people live in the realm of verbal intention. They constantly speak about their goals, their dreams, their ambitions. They describe in detail what they want to achieve, how they plan to do it, and when they expect it to happen. And while there is nothing wrong with having clarity, the problem arises when speaking becomes a substitute for doing. Because every time you speak about what you will do, you release a small sense of satisfaction. It feels like progress. It feels like movement. It feels like you are getting closer. But in reality, nothing has changed. The vision is still unbuilt. The goal is still unachieved. The work is still undone. And this is where many people become trapped. They live in a cycle of expression without execution. They talk, they feel good, and then they stop. They repeat the cycle again and again until eventually their words lose weight, not only in the ears of others, but even in their own mind, because deep down they know they are not following through. And when your words are not backed by action, your confidence begins to erode. You start to doubt yourself. You start to question your ability. And over time, you lose trust in your own voice. But when you shift your focus from speaking to producing, something powerful happens. You begin to rebuild that trust. Every small action becomes a deposit into your confidence. Every completed task reinforces your belief in yourself. Every bit of progress, no matter how small, creates momentum. And that momentum is what carries you forward. Results are built in silence. They are created in moments when no one is watching, when no one is applauding, when no one is applauding your effort. It is in those quiet hours, those disciplined routines, those consistent actions, that your future is being shaped. And this is why you must learn to value the process more than the announcement, because the process is what produces the result, and the result is what ultimately speaks. When your life begins to produce results, you do not need to convince people of anything. You do not need to explain your vision. You do not need to defend your decisions. The evidence is visible. It is undeniable, and it carries a level of authority that words alone can never achieve. People respond differently to results. They listen differently. They respect differently. Because results eliminate doubt. They remove speculation. They provide proof. And proof is powerful. It shifts conversations. It changes perceptions. It opens doors. But results do not come from talking. They come from doing. And doing requires discipline. It requires showing up when you do not feel like it. It requires continuing when progress feels slow. It requires pushing through resistance, discomfort, and uncertainty. These are things that words cannot accomplish. They must be lived. They must be practiced. They must be repeated until they become part of who you are. You must also understand that when you focus on results, you become less distracted by external noise. You are not concerned with what people think because your attention is on what you are building. You are not seeking approval because your validation comes from progress. You are not explaining your journey because you are too busy walking it. And this focus is what separates those who achieve from those who only aspire. There is a level of maturity that comes when you realize that you do not need to announce everything. You do not need to prove anything through words. You do not need to constantly update people on your life because you understand that real success is not loud. It is not performative. It is not based on attention. It is based on substance. It is built over time through consistent effort, through disciplined action, through unwavering commitment. And when that success begins to manifest, it speaks in ways that words cannot. It speaks through your growth. It speaks through your transformation. It speaks through your results. And at that point, your life becomes the message. You no longer have to tell people who you are becoming. They can see it. You no longer have to describe your progress. It is evident. You no longer have to announce your success. It is experienced. This is the power of letting results speak. It removes the need for unnecessary communication. It simplifies your focus. It aligns your energy with what truly matters. and it positions you to operate with authenticity. Because when your results speak, they are not based on exaggeration. They are not based on perception. They are based on reality. And reality has a way of commanding attention without effort. You must also recognize that results create opportunities. People are drawn to evidence. They are attracted to proof. And when they see what you have built, when they witness what you have accomplished, doors begin to open. Not because of what you said, but because of what you did. And this is where your influence begins to expand. Not through words, but through demonstration. Because demonstration is the highest form of communication. It shows rather than tells. It proves rather than suggests. It establishes rather than assumes. And when you live a life of demonstration, your impact becomes greater. Your message becomes clearer. Your presence becomes stronger. So make a decision. Shift your focus. Move away from the need to constantly speak about your plans. Reduce the urge to explain your every move. Let go of the desire to impress through words and commit yourself to the discipline of producing results. Build in silence, work with intention, execute with consistency, and trust that when the time is right, your results will speak for you. Because they will. They always do. And when they speak, they will say more in a moment than your words could have said in years. So let your life become the evidence. Let your actions become the message. And let your results speak louder than anything you could ever say. In the end, everything comes back to discipline, awareness, and self-mastery. Your life is too valuable, your purpose too significant, and your vision too powerful to be handled carelessly. You cannot afford to treat something sacred as something casual. And that is what happens when you speak too much, too soon, and to the wrong people. You reduce what is meaningful into something ordinary. There is a rhythm to life that you must learn to respect. A time to conceive, a time to develop, and a time to reveal. When you violate that rhythm, you create unnecessary resistance for yourself. But when you align with it, things begin to flow with clarity and strength. You stop forcing understanding. You stop chasing validation. You stop explaining your existence. And instead you focus on becoming. Because becoming is always more important than announcing. You are in a process. You are evolving, growing, building, transforming. And that process requires protection. It requires maturity. It requires the wisdom to know when to speak and when to remain silent. Not everything needs to be shared. Not everything needs to be understood by others. And not everything needs to be explained. Some things need time. Some things need silence. Some things need distance from unnecessary voices so they can develop into their full potential. When you begin to live this way, you will notice a shift. Your mind becomes clearer. Your energy becomes more focused. Your actions become more intentional. You stop leaking power through unnecessary conversations, and you start channeling that power into execution. And over time, your life begins to produce evidence, not noise evidence, not promises proof, not intentions results. And when results begin to show, something powerful happens. You no longer feel the need to convince anyone of anything. You are no longer affected by who understands and who does not, because what you have built speaks on your behalf. It carries weight. It commands respect. It creates impact. This is the level you must aim for. Not a life that sounds impressive, but a life that is impactful. Not a life filled with explanations, but a life filled with demonstration. So, as you move forward, carry this with you. Be selective with your words, be disciplined with your actions, and be patient with your process. Learn to move quietly when necessary. Learn to build without applause. Learn to trust what is being formed within you, even when no one else can see it yet. Because there will come a time when it will be seen. There will come a time when everything you have been working on in private will step into the light. And when that moment comes, you will not need to say much. Your life will speak, and it will say everything that needs to be said.